People who met their partners after 30. How did it happen? Do you wish you had met earlier? Yes, I wish we'd met earlier, by about 5 years. As we lurch towards the end of our lives, I would love another second, minute, hour or day with the best person on the planet. We met the old-fashioned way, in a restaurant through a mutual friend. I had to work out of town for a couple of months after meeting, but on returning we quickly moved into together and married in 1990. So almost 35 years ago. We didn't have cell phones in 1986, much less the internet. Fax machines were a big thing. Different world. Different times. You shouldn't be at the end of your lives just yet, depending on how old you were when you got married. My parents got married in 1986 and are 64 and 61, and I don't want to think of them as even close to that. Both of us were married 10 to 15 years previously. It honestly took the growth of our previous relationships to be able to have the meaningful relationship that we have now. Funny how your life being in shambles turns into the best thing you ever could have imagined, and having a partner that is your true partner. New neighbor moved into the second floor studio and was chatting with me from his balcony while I worked on an art project in the yard. Thought nothing of it, till some house guest insisted I come up and meet their friend. Small world. Weeks later he told me he was flirting with me, but I was oblivious. As usual, we had 20 wonderful years together till he died suddenly. And yes, I do wish we had met earlier, cause then we would have had more time together. Bro, thank you all for the awards. It's the first time. For those who wanted to know, he died of a massive heart attack at 64. My CPR didn't help, and either did the EMTs. It was one of the hardest things I ever went through, but I would go through it again for those 20 years. That's so sweet but also very sad. I'm sorry for your loss. I was in Australia on a working holiday visa. After going on about a million trials with different companies, I get a call for another interview with another one. Show up and there are 3 others all interviewing for a bunch of different roles. He rushes in late, gives us all a spiel on each of our different roles, asks if we want to try it out, and schedules a time. That was the interview. I don't think I answered a single question. He ends up driving me home after my trial day, and I think how kind he is, and my head automatically out of nowhere goes, it'd be weird if we ended up falling in love and I had to go back to Canada and we had to figure out cross-country futures. Then I was like, WTF was that? No. Boats moats floats. No, you just met this person. About 4.5 months later we were in love. About 7 months after that, I went back to Canada and we had to figure out our cross-country future together. We're now legally partners, but I haven't seen him in a year and 15 days. Not at all how the last year was supposed to go, but God, I hope I get to see him this year. I don't necessarily wish we'd met earlier. I think we would have had a ball together as children because we had very similar interests. I also would have loved to see him in his wild 20s, but we both had lots of growing to do before we were able to be the partners we are to each other. I do wish we'd had more time together. I wish we had time together now, for that matter. Another Canadian girl with an Aussie bloke I see. Welcome to the club. Met 8 years ago, had an old car meet in Nevada. Spent a little time together. A bunch of the older ladies shoving us together whenever they could. Hence I avoided him the rest of the trip. He lived in Texas. I lived in California. A year later he called to ask me a question, and 3 hours later we got off the phone. Same thing the next day. Same thing the next day. I invited him to come out and visit because we were having an event at my house. To my utter shock he came. About a year and a half later we were married 5 days before my 40th birthday. 15 months ago, I gave birth to our first and what will be our only daughter 1 week after my 43rd birthday. Yes, I wished I met him sooner sometimes, but in hindsight the timing was perfect and meant to be, and I wouldn't have it any other way. This gives me hope. I'm 41 and trying. We got married 2 months ago. Edit. Wow, I had no idea this would be so popular. Thanks for the positivity in the awards. You guys are awesome. Can I tell the story about how my dad and stepmom met instead? This was back in the early 90s, pre-OJ car chase by about a year I think. I was waiting tables at a steak joint and was living at home with my dad after college. My parents had been divorced for a couple of years and my dad was seeing a lady that my sisters and I hated. I'm sure she was fine. but she was lame. She wore housecoats at 50. Anyway, one night I was waiting on a table of about 6 ladies that were out celebrating something special. I had been joking with them throughout the evening, and near the end of the meal I asked if I could get anyone anything else. One lady said, "Do you have any tall, dark, handsome men stashed away back there?" I tell her, "Number. Sorry, we sold those with the prime rib." Haha. She follows up with, "Any short, fat, balding ones?" I'm not particular. Not sure why I did it, but I answered, "Nope, but you could go out with my dad." Before they left, she legit wrote her name and number down on a deposit slip, and I passed it along to my dad. He asked her out for ice cream, saying something about how you can tell a lot about a person based on their ice cream choices. Okay, dad. They were married 20 years before he died of cancer. Slowly takes off the housecoat I'm currently wearing. The second question first. No, we wouldn't have liked each other when we were younger. We met at 33/34. She lived above a friend in the same apartment complex I lived in. I moved in with a friend, asked this girl out, and she turned me down. About a month later she went to an Aziz Ansari show. He convinced her to give him her phone, and he promptly read her Facebook messages out loud. He asked the audience if she gave me a chance. They all booed her, and then she asked me out a couple days later. Aziz Ansari guilted her into going out with me. No freaking way. I met my wife in a bar when I was with my brother and a friend of his. I thought my brother's friend was a dong. My future wife approached us and proceeded to tell this dong what a dong he was. Turns out they worked together. I was immediately attracted to the way she spoke and her judgment of people. After she walked away, I asked dong what her name was. True to form, he would not give me her name. My future wife was with a group of 6 women. I nervously approached and asked for her name. I was 30. We've been together ever since. We met on the Coachella message boards. I was 34 and he was 30. He was looking for a ride to Coachella. I had tickets, but no one to go with. We met once for about an hour before making the 14-hour drive together. Hung out together the whole weekend. Discovered we had similar tastes in music and enjoyed similar things. We didn't actually get together until about 3 months later when we met up to go to another music festival together. Music festivals have been a regular part of our 10 years together. Hopefully will be again soon. Stupid COVID. I don't think it would have worked if we had met earlier, although I wish we had. It took me a while to figure out how to be in a healthy relationship, and I'm glad I met him at my right time. My partner and I have music festivals as a big part of our relationship too. At one off my face, I realized how much I loved her and told myself if we're still going strong in 5 years, I'll ask her to marry me here, at the festival. Sadly she beat me to it and asked me to marry her 1 year before I was planning to. Wish we had met earlier. Heck no. We were both in our early 30s. And it was perfect because we were mature enough to know what we wanted and were both ready to settle down. In my 20s I was immature, wild and not marriage material. Freshly 30-year-old me nodding along feverishly. Yes, I'm very mature now. MMHMM. I met my wife in junior high school. We were friends in a group of friends. Never dated. Lost contact after high school. 25 years later we saw each other on social media, reacquainted as friends, then started dating, and 8 years later we married. Still happily married after 9 years. We were both different people when we were younger and agree that it wouldn't have worked out between us if we got together when we were young. Met on the train. I had the day off and was just riding random trains, personal joy, and she was going to work to fill in for someone. We wouldn't have met under any other circumstances. She approached me, gave me her card and asked me out for coffee. Happily married for 7 years. Do I wish we met earlier? No. Early to mid 20s me was only concerned about clubbing and hanging out with friends. I would have probably blown her off. We both met at the right time in life. Hubby and I met playing Quake II online age 35. We were aware of each other for a good 2 years prior and played daily together. I thought he was a 16-year-old boy and he also thought I was male. We only typed to each other, so no voice, and I had a silly nickname. People didn't share too much personal stuff back then. I started going to LANs to play Q2. I mentioned this in a game. He asked if my dad played, if my dad took me to the lands, and off went the conversation from there. Turns out we were the same age and both had become single. 21 years together. 7 years married on Valentine's Day. IDKY, I love this so much, but it made me cry. I was laughing so hard at the thought of one of you explaining how you started dating as well, once we established that neither of us were teenage boys like the other had assumed. Met at work. He was an acquaintance for years prior, but the time wasn't right then. I'd say it worked the way it was supposed to for us. Sent her a message on OkCupid, but then she set her account to inactive without seeing my message. 2 years later, she reactivated her account, looked at her old messages, saw mine at the top of the queue, and the rest is history. This is adorable. I went around favoriting guys without realizing they could see my list. I didn't have a photo up, so I thought nobody would notice views anyway, but he reached out anyway based on my heart, and as you say, the rest is history. We met through Craigslist if I recall correctly. I was lonely looking for someone to see movies with. She was looking for more. But after a few weeks of chatting we met up, and OMG the sparks and chemistry. Our first date lasted 9 hours long. Here we are, still madly in love, 11 years later, and 2 kids, 4 states, 4 apartments, 2 houses, and our 10-year anniversary in September. Dang, that's a lot of moving around. This post is an ad. The weekend before Valentine's Day, all the top level comments are about online dating and all have years of activity, no activity, and suddenly today, which means they were bought and sold accounts. Also, 30 is the median age for online dating. Why can't I believe in anything anymore, damn it? I met my partner 3 years ago through mutual friends. After 2 failed marriages I swore I would stay single forever. We moved in together 2 years ago and it's been great. I am 66, he is 55. We are incredibly happy. I don't think I wish I would have met him earlier. People are different when they are seniors compared to when we were younger. Different hobbies, dreams, etc. Happy Cake Day. I met my partner when I was 32. We were each in the same music scene, so I'd get to see her out. I wasn't ready for a good relationship before that, so I was happy to meet her then. Last September was our 17-year anniversary. I'm glad I didn't settle and waited until I found someone that I'm really happy with. We met through friends and socializing. A mutual friend's birthday get together to be exact. Frick no, I don't wish we had met sooner. If you're doing life right, you'll win. So too, you were several years ago. So glad she didn't meet me when I was a bigger idiot than I am now, lol. It's making me laugh how so many people are saying frick no. That's what I said, too. You need those practice relationships and maturing to get it just right. So I probably should get reading glasses because I read parents in the title rather than partners and was like, WTF. Now that I read it probably. These stories are really cute. I met him when I was 16 years old and dated his friend, as he was always the best friend, never the boyfriend type of guy. We dated long distance at 19 years old. We broke up due to something petty in the distance. We're both 34, came back into my life last November and we've been inseparable since. I've never enjoyed time whether just cuddling and quiet or talking like I do with him. I met my wife when I was 31. She was 24. I was a complete moron in my 20s. Acted like a teenager who was even dumber than when he was a teenager. Perfect timing for me, and she helped me seriously get my crap together. Married 20 years and the 2nd of May, 10 kids. Awesome life right now. We met at the water fountain of a gym. I had never met a woman at a gym before. You give me hope, random guy. I was single and sad after being cheated on by my then partner, so one of my friends suggested I try out Tinder as a distraction. I had always thought Tinder was just hookups and kind of cringy. He was the 2nd date I went on. Best guy I've ever met. This could be my exact story. He might have been my 5th date though. Match.com. I was 30, she was 28. We are now married and just had our first kid. Legit hours ago. Just scrolling through Reddit while the nurses do their thing, and yes, I wish we met so much earlier. Not to sound cheesy, but she is my everything. My wife and I met on Tinder. Used it like a dating app, not a hookup app. We just got home from the hospital with our 5-day-old daughter. Congratulations mate from one new father to another. Tinder of all places, at 36 now 41. And I most definitely would have fricked it up if we had met earlier. A younger me couldn't have appreciated how kind and selfless she is. Having someone who brings out the best in me would have been such a ridiculous idea. We're perfect together because of when we came into each other's lives it seems. Whoa, this is almost exactly what I was going to write, except I was 49. 100% would have fricked it up when I was younger. All the crap that I've been through up to this point has made me the person I am today. I'd like to think I'm a better person now than when I was younger. Met her at a party when I was 32. I wanted to ask for her number, but never had the chance for a one-on-one conversation as she and her friend were tied at the hip that night. But I knew where she worked. I called her on Monday and we had our first date the following weekend. I am glad we didn't meet any earlier than we did because she's 9 years younger than me, so it would have been pretty weird for me to be in my early 30s dating a college student. 12 years later we are still going strong with 2 kids and a happy marriage. I met my husband on the app Coffee Meets Bagel, possibly now defunct. Never hear about it. He was the first guy I met on it about 2 weeks after I moved to a new town for a job. I was 33, he was 37. The rest is history. Married W/2 kids now. I got divorced. Nothing tragic. We just weren't right for each other. I was back to dating and it was fun but wasn't really clicking with anyone. I was thinking about people who I knew that might be partner material. Then I remembered meeting her at a party and wanted to try to connect. Meanwhile, her sister heard that I got divorced and told her to pursue me. My so thought it might be too soon. Only a few months. We went on a date anyway. Fast forward to 4 years later. Our baby, first for both of us, will be here in 2 months and we're engaged to be married sometime in the next year or so. Success. I was working the window at a Starbucks drive-thru and I saw her open the passenger side door to yak into the flower bed as I was feeding her dog his cup of whipped cream. That's when I knew I had found the one for me. It is now 5 years later and we are engaged to be married. I was 30, he was 38. I was in a toxic relationship at the time. He was newly divorced. I was interviewing for a software engineering position at a game company. I had already spent a few hours interviewing there, but they asked me to come back in to do one more interview with a technical director. I remember him being friendly, but nerves got the best of me. Later, he told me he thought I was cute. I didn't notice. I was in interview mode. He rejected me for the position as someone else was better. Was crushed, but I ended up getting an offer elsewhere. Fast forward over a year later, and I'm unemployed again. In a strange coincidence, that same company that had rejected me reached out again and asked me if I wanted to apply again for that same job, as the previous guy bailed after a year. I did, so they fast-tracked my application and interview. Only one interview this time. No technical director. I got the job. Turns out he worked closely with my group, and 6 months after I started, when I was 32 and he 39, we started dating. We got married 4 months ago, at 37 and 44. I still don't let him forget that he rejected me the first time he met me. I'm not sure if we qualify, and if we do, it's a technicality, but it's a fun story anyway. I met my wife in college, but she dropped out and left, and I lost track of her. We'd had an attraction but she had previously been involved with a friend of mine, Kay, and he was still hung up on her, so we didn't act on it. 11 years later, when we were 31, I got an email blast from that friend, and thank God Kay didn't know about BCC, because it included a whole long list of folks in the CC line, and in that list was my wife-to-be's Hotmail, which was obviously her. I sent her a message, basically saying hey, what the heck ever happened to you, and we started emailing back and forth. Like, a lot. Clever, witty, flirty messages. Sometimes several times a day. I was winding down a company that was failing, so I wasn't picking up on clues that she was interested, not even when we finally got on the phone and talked for 3 hours. I've always been dumb that way. Then, in late August, Things were really coming to a head with my employer company, and I didn't reply to her email quickly enough, so I wrote her a no crap actual physical letter, IKR, that I posted the first week of September. So, here's where I mentioned that we were 31 in 2001, and that she was living in Washington, D.C., and that my letter was the only piece of mail she received on the second Tuesday of September that year, and that it took almost of a day to get across D.C. back to her home on account of, well, terrorism. It was also the last piece of mail she got at that PO box for a long time, because it got anthraxed shortly thereafter. Things ramped up. We decided she'd come to my state to see U2, as she'd missed the show in DC. She got the tickets, and I had frequently flown miles to fly her down. The show, though, was about 4 hours away, and the FF ticket meant she had to stay for 3 days. We both thought, independently, that holy crap, we just signed up for a 72-hour first date. Reader, I married her. In October we'll hit our 16th anniversary. What career path did you choose that you strongly advise against? Audio engineer. You see the guy in the studio working with a bunch of artists and you think, oh, that looks badass, I wanna get in on that. Fast forward a few years after the interning and metaphorical BJs, where you get to sit in the big chair and the last thing you want to do is spend all night redoing takes to appease some shat who's never going to do anything worthwhile. All for little to no money. As someone going into their 3rd year in their sound engineering degree, dang. My wife would say, if you want to be an artist, don't get a Masters of Fine Arts, become a welder. You'll make a lot more money, and can still make art in your spare time. She has an MFA in metalwork and printmaking. She works for a world-class art museum, as an associate curator, and has been there for 19 years. She wouldn't qualify to be hired for that position now, she'd need a doctorate. They aren't even hiring secretaries unless they have at least a master's, because there are so many art degree grads out there. I have a high school, and some college education. I make more, don't have to work weekends, and can still make art, too. Oh yes, I went digital arts and oh god, I would have never found a job. Photography. It's oversaturated right now because everyone thinks they're a professional photographer with their digital cameras. It's especially hard if looking to get editorial or advertising work. Super competitive and you have to almost know someone at an agency or magazine already. Photography, oversaturated. Oh, you. Law. I feel like I was born to be a lawyer and have a good gift for certain skills that go well with law, but I strongly advise against it unless you want to do it regardless of money, prestige, anything. We already have too many lawyers and jobs. Can be tough to come by if you are only in it for the money. A common misconception, by the way, or because you want to do something that sounds good, or your parents are pushing you into it, or maybe you think it will help you get dates, or you are just putting off going into the real world. Don't do it. Don't take the LSATs, don't go to the law school, and don't try to become a lawyer. Like I said before, I am not going to knock anyone who truly wants to be a lawyer because, after learning what real lawyers do, they actually want to do what we do. I'm a litigator. I do a lot of research, reading and writing every day, not to mention analyzing cases and discussing working on case strategy and arguments. I love it, but if your reason is not that you sincerely believe you will enjoy the actual work for the rest of your life and believe you were meant for this line of work, stay away. I strongly advise against it. Lawyer status confirmed. Restaurant industry, management specifically, plenty of jobs, but the salary cap is fairly low for the crap you have to put up with. This so much. Freaking see that treat you like plebeians because you are serving them. The amount of times I've wanted to Falcon punch an arrogant T is unquantifiable. Edit. Wow. Woke up to upvotes and Reddit gold. Thanks awesome strangers. Advertising. Specifically in a media agency. It's not like Mad Men. Sure, there are some fun parties and freebies. However, the pay sucks, the hours suck, and you start to become jaded and hate everything you see online or on TV. Clients also tend to be pretty dumb. You start to become jaded and hate everything you see online or on TV. I get the same effect from just watching TV and being online. You most likely will not become the next Gordon Ramsay or Bobby Flay. If you want to be a cook or chef, Instead of starring in your own Food Network show, you'll enjoy the following: long hours, little pay, never having a Saturday night off, mad knife skills and asbestos hands, fluency in restaurant Spanish, Mars Platos, the pleasure of working with some of the most insane, talented, funny, criminal, medicated, loyal people you'll ever met. My old neighbor was a head chef in a large NYC restaurant, had to give it up because of the hours and pay, wanted to be able to see his kids. It worked out well, because now whenever his family hosts dinners, the food is amazinth. Glad no one has said billionaire or space pope. Both my career paths are still open. Yay. Writing. Had I known that a writer with multiple books on the New York Times bestseller list is lucky to make $50,000 a year, I'd stuck to landscaping and kept writing as a hobby. Instead, I harvest out my creativity on a contract basis with no benefits, soul-crushing quotas, and an emphasis on quantity over quality. It's mostly timing and luck and having access to info no one else has access to. But mostly timing and luck and erotica. And now I need a mid-afternoon whiskey. Cosmetology. Find out how many girls per chair there are in your city. In Cincinnati it's 3-to-1. If it's high, take out loans and go to a good school. I went to Aveda, and it's far easier for me to find work, get interviews than most. Also, I am good at my job and find it tedious. Make sure you can put up with monotony. I'm from Cincinnati too. Basically every girl from my class that didn't go into nursing went into cosmetology. Maybe 3 of them actually have a decent job. Most didn't even finish schooling. Pilot. Don't get me wrong. I love the flying. Been doing it for some years now. But after the airlines started dumping the fare prices, life as a pilot sucks. It was super hard to get a job, and the education was very expensive. Now I can barely pay my loans and food. Working conditions is not so good anymore, and I probably have to wait at least 5 years before I get a raise. I've been working for the airliner for 3 years BTW. Movie industry. You won't get rich and famous. Most of us can't even afford our rent. Especially acting doesn't pay off. I know enough people who starred in several TV movies but still need help from the job center to pull through. I was under the impression that you have to be otherwise employed until you get some traction in the industry. Work in a restaurant or in construction, or hang around a set until you get the attention of a production assistant, etc. You have to begin somewhere, unless you're related to someone in the industry. Social work. I did that for 8 years after college. The people were selfish, pig-headed and self-destructive, and that was just my colleagues. The patients weren't so bad. I've had my fingers in many pies. I may be the only mechanic turned librarian ever, and I would say neither. As a mechanic, you're slave to piecework, and if you're in a dealership environment, you're doing warranty work that takes an hour and pays 0.2 of an hour. You're making less than minimum wage at times and looking at $10,000 in tools you had to buy yourself. I went back to school, got a BA in history because I had been thinking about joining the military. I'm Canadian and we get paid pretty well here, and all you need is a degree to become an officer, etc. Long story short, I went to library school and became a librarian. I am, to my knowledge, the only librarian from my graduating class in permanent employment. Absolutely 1000% would not do again. About to go to library school, already feeling like it was a terrible decision considering all the people I currently work with are unfulfilled in their work, and the pay, in the UK at least, is appalling. BTW, you do not get to sit around and read all day. I don't think I've read a whole book since starting librarianship last year. Manual labor jobs when you are young. I messed up my back when I was 22 working cargo for an airline. It's been over 10 plus years ago and I still have back problems, probably for the rest of my life. Agreed. I worked construction in my early 20s and a large part of my job was using a hammer drill. My wrist has never been the same since. Don't do a degree in anthropology. We are the philosophy majors of the social science world. The social scientists laugh at us and call us hippies. Applied scientists laugh at the social sciences, and theoretical pure science mathematicians laugh at the applied sciences. It's buttholes all the way down. IT. No amount of love for computers or training can ever prepare you for the soul-crushing existence of helping users on a daily basis. It's a pretty rough time to be a teacher. The whole thing is in flux and the people who pass the laws that govern what you can must do seem not to know what they're doing. A lot of my students ask about it, and I tell them that while I'm happy, if I had a kid, I wouldn't encourage them to join the fold. I just got a letter this afternoon telling me I'm terrible at my job and that my number of observations next year will double. Ha 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 ha. Kill me. Wildlife biology. No more competition please. Do not go into game development because you like to play video games. You won't make it past the first semester. Do not go into game development because you like to make games. You might make it through the courses, but the industry will chew you up and spit you out in a year. Go into game development if and only if you love to make games, and even then, only if you don't mind sacrificing your life for the next decade in the name of your love. Every year, in every CS program across the country, a few hundred neckbeards with poor hygiene flood the first year classes, and every year, 90% wash out of the program as they realize that making games is nothing like playing them. The ones who make it aren't much better off. They get to go into an industry with only a handful of good jobs and shitload of bad ones, so the competition is frighteningly stiff. If you don't get incredible grades and make friends with connected people, plan on spending the first couple of years being pushed to your limit to develop crappy games for crappy pay. Games that may never see the light of day. Most of your peers will leave the industry in the first 6 months. You will, in all likelihood, be among them. The problem is that there is a whole lot of money to be made in the game industry, so there are quite a few investors ready to dump money into the first startup that promises the moon and the stars. Those startups then get to cut corners and pay fresh grads to chug out a barely together game at light speed. You will get calls in the middle of the night, the testers found another bug, and if you don't get this crap gold by the end of the week, you'll all be out of a job. Of course, if you do manage to get really good and beat out your competition, someday you might be in a job that is fun and doesn't eat up all of your time without your permission, but you'll be in the minority. But those guys in the credits look so happy, and there are so many game babies. This thread is depressing. Someone should make an Ask Reddit thread about career paths that others would recommend taking. Hopefully the comments won't be as soul-crushingly hopeless. In my experiences, those threads boil down to a bunch of people saying either computer science programming, trade labor, plumber, carpenter, etc. or some weird niche job that is high paying and stable is because 99.999% didn't even know the job exists with nowhere to begin doing it, like custom hotel drapery installer, private animal inseminator, or forest firefighter. Food bev hospitality industry. It's just fine if you're younger and working your way through school or something. But believe me when I say that there are much easier ways to make a living that will also enable you to keep faith in humanity, have a social life and a healthy back. Marine Corps infantry. Only do it if you love being miserable, carrying heavy things over long distances, walking and wading through the worst possible terrain, silently enduring extreme climates, getting crap on by everyone who outranks you, and the threat of going to another country to get killed or lose limbs. I love it. Dude, I'm a doctoral student who pays the bills as a computer technician. There is not a single day when I don't wake up and suspect something has gone terribly wrong. Graphic design. I love it, but it's also a very saturated market. Most graphic designers are a dime a dozen. You have to be pretty phenomenal at what you do to get any kind of recognition. Design firms are flooded with applicants, and the pay isn't always stellar. You can always freelance, which is a plus, but I've learned people want a lot of work for little money. No one ever sends over images in the correct format or resolution. Also, make it pop. I will forever hate that phrase. Tip: if you do decide to freelance, make sure to write up a contract and be sure to include how many revisions a client can make to a piece, because if you don't, they'll want to redo something 30,000 freaking times. And when payment is due and late fees, get it notarized if you can, especially if it's a particularly large project. Never send over proofs without a watermark. Investment banking. Though the analyst program is a great crash course in business and the pay is amazing, the toll on your relationships, physical health, and sense of dignity are ultimately not worth it. Graphic design print was fun. I loved the work and all the classes I took. The job prospects were terrible, even with the 2 internships I had. Pay sucked when I found a job and I never got more than a 2% raise despite multiple glowing reviews. I said frick it and went into IT with some of my basic knowledge. It got a job offer in a week making 30% more. I miss print, but it doesn't pay for crap. Frick it. I'm moving to the Caribbean and starting a boat rental place. Frick this economy. Frick the education. Frick the loans. You're cool. Frick the government. I'm out. I know this isn't related to the topic, but after reading through the thread, I'm really impressed there are virtually no base jobs in the list. I haven't found any plumbers, electricians, welders or anything of that sort. Looks like Mike Rowe might be onto something. These are barely base jobs. Electricians and plumbers require schooling and an apprenticeship journeyman period. It's a great career path. However, it's not for everyone. Likewise, all the electricians and plumbers I know don't spend much time on the internet. Never apply for a meat processing plant with anything written and positions applied for. I will never forget the horrors of being a wall scraper. I rewatched Cabin in the Woods today. I imagined you scraping those walls. People of Reddit, don't be put off your career hopes and dreams by what you read in this thread. Many people have said there are no jobs in their line of work. Guess what? There are no jobs in any line of work. That's the reality of the world in 2013. Many others have talked about the stress and pressure in their line of work. Guess what? There is going to be huge pressure and stress at some point in any line of work. You'll find bad bosses in all fields. You'll have to deal with nightmare clients in all fields. You'll be underpaid for the first few years of your career and at times you'll have to do ridiculous hours. So guess what you do? You go after your dreams. You go with what you love, what you're passionate about, and you try like all heck to make it work. Life is too short to do something you hate because it's a steady source of income. Ideally, you try to do it without incurring huge amounts of debt, but otherwise yes. Never get a psychology degree. There are no jobs out there, and if you are lucky enough to mind one, you better have a PhD. This is general advice that applies to any career choice, I think, and also happens to be a huge beef I have with career counseling services. Find a job where you can tolerate and hopefully enjoy the actual day-to-day work. Do not pick a career based on what you are good at in school. For example, good at math. Become an engineer. Good at writing. Become a journalist. Why? Many careers don't even have a school equivalent, so that is likely to lead you down the wrong path. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you'll actually like doing it. Just because a job requires you to be good at something means you'll actually be doing it all day. Do not pick a career based on what you think it pays, or what you think you need to make, and why. Most reported average whatever salaries you see are, in reality, highly variable. They don't take into account where the job is, whether you are good at it and get promoted, or a million other small things that result in what you actually get paid. People go into fields like law or medicine thinking they'll get rich, and instead wind up making nowhere close to what they thought, and miserable because they hate the work. Beyond a certain amount of money, more money doesn't actually increase happiness. If I recall correctly, it's about $70k in the US on average. There's more, but these are the big ones. College professor. I feel like a travel agent in 1999 about to see the entire profession wiped out by the public's desire to save money through online education. I used to own my curriculum, but now it goes online and is no longer mine but my school's. Optometry. My best friend is an optometrist. He says, and I quote, "You go to school to become a doctor, end up with huge college bills, and at the end of the day you work at Walmart. I don't even get a store discount." He works at the Walmart Eyeglass Center. Thankful and surprised not to see anything in the environment natural resource field, but maybe it's because everyone in those positions are too poor to have a computer smartphone for Reddit, or are too busy working and paid internships to Reddit. PR. It's not really exciting and dynamic like your professors would make it out to be. A lot of it is being overly politically correct and avoiding any and all conflict at the cost of any integrity or individuality for your client. I'll just say that for most of these where they say you have to know somebody to get a job, that's basically every job in every field you'd consider a career. There are exceptions of course, but that's just how it is. Tech support, especially if you love technology. I have a fairly cushy job at a university, and my workload is not particularly heavy, but the monotony of fixing desktop printers, rebooting the troublesome server, and going through the same dang have you tried turning it off and on again conversations with people has pushed me to a point where I don't ever want to see a dang computer again. I don't know how many others can vouch for this, but fixing people's work computers turns into requests for fixing home computers, and paper shredders, garbage disposals, car headlights, and anything that glows, spins, or beeps. This is especially true in my situation where the people in the office are expected to have home computers capable of remoting into their work desktops. So it is assumed that their home computers fall under my jurisdiction. And, if I may add another, graphic design. I worked in the industry for a year before getting out and going back to tech support. It doesn't matter how much you love your design and how clever you believe it to be, the customer will almost always want freaking papyrus for their business cards. Be a sales rep. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night with nightmares about the sheer volume of free beer I get. It's horrible. I sense something. I can't put my finger on it. Biology. Not biological engineering or biomedical or some other bio-related field. But if you major in just plain biology, it is a dead end. Ministry. I went to a Bible college and seminary and ended up in a field with constant pressure, no privacy, horrible hours, low pay, and no room for advancement. I now have 2 degrees and a decade of experience in a job most would see as irrelevant to other fields. If I decide to get back into it, there is a very narrow range of places I could work because of the way churches' denominations choose to distance themselves from each other. I made a difference in a lot of lives, and I value the experiences and relationships I made along the way. I just wish I hadn't painted myself into a corner when I couldn't handle being that guy any longer. Also, don't go into ministry if you have serious doubt about your faith. Speaking from personal experience, it will slowly kill you on the inside. Getting a biology degree. Only 10% of people actually get into medical school, the rest either go on to get a master's or PhD. Having just a biology degree, I work as a research technician making less than $40,000 a year. I'm not sure I will have a job come December because of government funding cuts to the no. I don't hate my job, but I don't much like the bureaucracy and red tape. Research is not glamorous and most of the time you don't know if the work you're doing is going to help in the end or not. I'm exploring other career opportunities and have been applying for other jobs, but having just a bio degree and all my experience in lab work, it is tough. There are so many different options in biotech. Try that out. Pay is also not bad. Retail pharmacy. Yes, the $100K starting pay is tempting. What's not is the 14-hour workdays of essentially being an insurance claims bee, the abusive and unhygienic customers, and the overall dead-endedness of the job. I'd rather do that and earn $100K than do that and earn $20K in retail. Anything below an RN, PA, or a doctor in the medical field, you will constantly be shitted on and the people above you will do whatever it takes to make your life heck in that field. Source: I was a medical assistant and my fiancé was a surgical technician that worked with RNs at a hospital. What's one rule you set for yourself and refuse to break? Don't ask people to do what they do for a living for free. You can ask your friend Bob, a painter, to come over to help you fix your car or cut down a tree. You should not ask him to help you paint. This is not getting enough respect. My mom expects my brother-in-law, a mechanic, to fix all her crap and I know he's getting really tired of it. Pay off the credit card completely every month and don't charge more than you can afford to pay. This has been something I've done since day one of having a credit card and it's been a good rule. I tried explaining this to a friend once and they kept saying I don't know, money's tight, sometimes I barely get the bills paid at the end of the month. To which I keep saying, I know, that's why you can't afford to take on more debt. That if I make black and white rules for my life, the universe will respond with a situation that is as grey as possible. I like you. I have major depressive episodes a few times a year, so to keep me going through those times, my rule is to get dressed every day. I could lay in bed in my same pajamas from sunrise to sundown. The biggest hurdle preventing me from going out and going through the motions of my day is getting dressed. It's the hardest thing to force myself to do on the days my body is begging me to stay home and do nothing. After that first huge step, the day is in motion and everything else is a little easier. If you shower and lay out your clothes in the evening, it will be easier for you in the morning. You will only have to roll out of bed and wear whatever is prepared. It may not be easy, and you may not be as clean as you would ideally want, but it will take less time than looking for clothes, making decisions, etc. No cheating in relationships. I could never cheat in a relationship. That would involve two people finding me attractive. Bro, either I've lived too much or not enough. I've had to eat my words so many times that I've narrowed my hard and fast rules for life down to always wash my makeup off before going to bed. Hey, it's one I always stick to. Good skin is important. This is basically the only consistency I have in my life. I will not cheer for an injury to any player in a sport I follow. That is one of the most sickest but most common things I see in sports, especially in person. It is just a game and I realize that. Live like Captain Picard. Tell the truth. Take responsibilities for your mistakes. Resolve conflicts with the best compromise. Defend yourself and your allies to the best of your ability. And if you don't know what to do, ask for advice from people you trust. WWJLD. Never say the name Caligula out loud. Don't know why I was afraid to say it as a kid, but for some reason I thought it had some Bloody Mary Candyman effect. I'm in my 30s and gone this long without saying, so I'll be damned if I say it now. Yes, if you utter the name of Caligula, a wild gang of orgieists will come fondle, suck and fist you into oblivion. Hope for the best, expect the worst. A soft rule, perhaps, but it's helped me in times of stress. I will not have sex with a chick in a relationship. I always say it's like being asked for a gun in which someone is gonna kill someone with and you give it to them. Yes, you're not the one cheating, but you're absolutely are contributing to a crappy act. I have to do some type of workout every day. I'm kinda lenient on what I do, but it's better than doing nothing. When drinking at my place, I have to do 5 pull-ups for every drink. If I can't do the pull-ups, I'm cut off. Joke's on me cause I can't even do 1 pull-up. As much as possible, plan my day so that I don't have to rush. That means leaving 30 min to 1 hour early to account for traffic and or finding the place if I haven't been there before. Gives me time to just hang out and relax around the area until my appointed time. Waking up earlier. Not scheduling too much activities in one day. If I'm shopping, not to plan anything afterwards to account for lineups or slow cashiers. I find that it's not the commute that stresses me. It's the will I make it on time feeling. Yes, people think I overplan, but when everyone else is stressed or late or has forgotten something, I'm free to enjoy my day because the basic framework for success is there to guide everything. It takes something truly horrible to really shake my day, because I intentionally leave space for common problems. No name calling, least of all in arguments. That crap stays in people's brains, affects their self-esteem on a fundamental level, and never, ever leaves. Also, I will never settle in a relationship. Doesn't matter if we're getting married or have a house together. If they treat me like crap, I'm not afraid to end it. On the brighter side, don't settle into marriage either. Keep dating your spouse long after, and it helps keep the romance alive. I have a phrase in life: what is kindness if you expect something in return? Do something nice for someone for the sole purpose of brightening that person's day and making yourself feel better. I always do at least one nice thing for someone a day. Don't be afraid to try something just because you might fail. I'm in medical school. Have failed a lot, and then passed. Many more exams to go. Currently repeating a college course, am all the better for it. The last words to my wife every time either of us are leaving the house is "I love you." You never know what will happen out in the world, and I would be devastated if the last thing I said to her was anything else. Don't do something that you don't want to happen to you. Currently lost a lot of opportunities and girls because of that. Still worth it. The world would be a better place if everyone lived by this one. Props to you for being a moral person. Never raise my voice to my wife. That's when you say stupid hurtful stuff you don't really mean. Also no cheating, but really that shouldn't need to be a rule. It should just be expected. Never raise my hand to a child or someone weaker than me. Never do say something cruel to make myself feel better than them. I've been on the receiving end of both those things and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. If I see a way to better the world, within reason, I have to do it. For example, went to the movie theater this last weekend by myself to see Passengers. Good movie BTW. Anyway, I had some popcorn and enjoyed it. There were two middle-aged women next to me and they left their freaking food trays on the ground when the movie was over. Just up and left their trash on the floor. So I thought to myself, all in quick succession, that's so lame. I should pick it up. I don't want to pick it up. That's what janitors are for. But then again, that's the attitude that let the ladies leave it here in the first place. But I'm going to take my trash like a good person. Why should I suffer because of these dumb ladies? Just get over yourself and take the trash. So then I grabbed their trash. This happens frequently when hiking as well. People leave their little doggy poop bags, water bottles, empty bags of chips, etc. It's disgusting. I'll limit myself to reasonability though. If I've already grabbed a few pieces of trash, I'll just let myself walk past the rest. Cause on some level I'm legit not there to clean things up. I'm there to hike and have a good time. I will always explain something to my child. No because daddy said so or because mommy said so. I'm not just gonna let him be people's bee. If there's an answer, there's a reason. As someone who was raised by a mom who had a standard because I said so answer to everything she demanded of me, I applaud you. Nothing was more maddening than that as a kid. I have a scorched earth policy. If it ended with an ex or even just a frequent hookup, it ended for a reason. Time and distance most likely did not change that reason. I don't mind making a decision and realizing it was a mistake later. That's just life. I do mind making the same mistake again. Scorched earth. It's a good system. Don't spend more than I make. That's how you get into debt. Unless it's something like a house or furniture. One-time purchase. Never date a smoker. I've watched my grandma die from a disease related to years of smoking. I can see firsthand what it is doing to my aunt. I am not going to watch the same thing happen to a significant other. Do not ever, under any circumstances, say anything behind someone's back that you wouldn't say to their face. And you can't pretty it up for them when you say it to their face. Say it the exact same way you would as if you were speaking directly to the person. This one is a great one. I struggle a bit with this, but at least, if I'm going to complain about someone, I say as well things I like, admire, respect about them. No drugs, smoking or alcohol. I avoid them all. Only drugs I have are tea, and I only ever have pharmaceutical drugs when a doctor tells me to. This is a very strict rule for me, and will never break it. I have no qualms against those that don't have this rule. Well, in most cases, but personally I feel better without them. Every job I have ever had, I choose one stupid task that I will willingly never complete. It's a fun game that takes some dedication and is just a personal fun. Worked at a golf course for 3 years in maintenance. Never filled oil in any machine. There were enough people that it got done regularly, I just looked busy. Worked at Subway for 3 years. Never filled the salt and pepper shakers. Currently work at a call center. Never went to the smoking area in the back. I just use the front parking lot. Now that you mention it, I've done this subconsciously with a lot of jobs. I don't know how to do that thing, and I don't want to learn, so I will find any possible way to never have to do it. If you have 3, you call it trump, even if it's showing a jack for the other team. 60% of the time, it works every time. Learn this game Friday. Very fun. I don't date co-workers. Ever. I don't care if you work on the other side of the country from me. I don't care if you aren't in my department. We're not dating. I've seen enough relationships go bad because they couldn't leave work at work to learn that lesson. Never smoke. I'm 16. and I've already been offered cigarettes 2 times too many. I don't care if everyone else is doing it. I am not letting myself suffer with the health problems and addiction for the rest of my life. Also, never swear at my mum or tell her to shut up. Everyone else is a-okay, not mum. Be nice to people as often as you can. It usually pays off one way or another. Plus your life will most likely be a lot less stressful. Never make fun of anybody's laugh or smile. They'll become self-conscious about 2 of life's greatest pleasures. That crap sticks. Never mess with another man's girl, even if I don't know him. Oh, you're in a relationship but want to start something with me, 100% is not going to happen. I never own an animal I wouldn't trust alone with a 5-year-old. It seems silly, but as a person who loves any and every animal, I need to make sure my pets don't make other uncomfortable or put people in unsafe situations. My mom could never understand how people would have arguments and call each other every name under the sun. So when I was a little kid, she gave me this one piece of advice: no matter how angry you are, don't say anything you can't take back. She didn't always live by it, but I have. Only eat steak at a restaurant if it is known for their steak. Throw away the soda when you leave fast food restaurants. Don't bring home leftovers. Only buy it if you have double the amount in the bank. I occasionally get legitimate access to prescription painkillers. I love painkillers and how they make me feel. There are leftovers in my room right now. I'm going through a lot of stress but not a lot of pain, and I won't touch them. Will never take them recreationally. There's a rare wouldn't it be nice though thought, but if I don't start taking them then I never have to stop. I enjoy the occasional recreational substance, but myself and a number of friends all agreed that there should be limits, and if someone is pressing those limits, it is up to the others to shame them away. NOM, heroin, crack, or regular CUs. Of course we're all smart enough to stay away from the weird crap too, like crocodile, bath salts, jenkem, etc. I'm the most adventurous, so I'm kind of the test dummy. After I try something I always report to them about dosage, feeling, come down, mental state before, during, and after. Basically my friends are a study group for drug use. I have fun and haven't had a miserable experience once. I'm never one to overdo it though. Better to play it safe than sorry. Plus with how expensive music events are nowadays, it's just not worth it to knock out halfway through the party. I will not sell advertisements in return for news articles. I was fired from my last newspaper for refusing to do this. 1.5 years later, I'm still unemployed, but I don't regret it at all. I'm not a dealer. I am well known by co-workers. I work at a movie theater, and people I talk to at school as a drug user. I smoke pot and trip acid at least twice a year, as well as being okay with using coke or other minor substances. I know C is not minor, but it's nowhere near as bad as crack and H. But I don't purchase them. I just partake when others offer those. But one thing I will not do is deal. I will not go and get you pot from my dispensary. I will not sell you my pot or acid. At most I will set you up with a dealer if I trust you, and if they say it's okay to give their number. People have really been peeing me off recently because someone claimed I would hook people up, so I have a bunch of people repeatedly ignoring me when I tell them I don't deal. I don't have anything against dealers, but personally I view pot and acid as substances that help me reconnect with myself and that help me sleep. The pot for sleep. Acid keeps you up nice and long. They are not a currency to me. They are something to help me heal and feel normal. I don't want to trade the good they do for me for cash. Never regret any decision I make in life. Every decision, good or bad, is an opportunity to learn something and helps me to make better decisions down the road. I will never raise my voice at and so. I'm only 23 now, but I've been in a few year or so long relationships and have never done this. I don't plan to start, ever. Don't be rude to strangers, especially customer service employees, unless they give you something to be rude about. I feel the world would be a better place if people used their manners more. What's the best piece of advice for a new driver, regardless of the location? Never trust a blinker. If you're at the only intersection and see a car coming with their turn signal on pointing into your road, don't pull out until you are absolutely 100% positive they have slowed down and are turning. Too many idiots just leave their signals on without realizing it, so don't take the risk and assume they are actually going to turn. You might just end up getting T-boned. Additionally, it will be very hard to win any court case if this happens because by objective evidence, you didn't yield and pulled out into oncoming traffic. Even video evidence and witnesses won't get you off the hook. When you stop behind another car, make sure you are far enough back to see their rear tires on the ground. That allows you the space to go around the car in front if it doesn't end up moving again. This also useful if the car in front is manual and you're stopped on a hill. The number of people who roll back a good foot towards you while doing a hill start in a manual is frightening. Be predictable, not polite. I hate four-way stops because some try to be nice then it throws off the order. I usually keep some water bottles and snacks in case I'm stuck in traffic for a while. I also keep a paper map of the state, also have zoomed in areas of major cities. Sometimes I get no service and Google Maps won't work. Always take a pause when a light turns green. You may have the right of way but you could be dead right if someone blows through the intersection. It's generally a good idea to look left and look right before entering the intersection, even if the light is green. Speed limits are for regular conditions. Any weather condition can dramatically drop that, so use common sense and pay attention. Local roads you'll learn to read after enough bad weather. Anywhere new, just play it safe. 1. The price for being in the wrong lane or missing your exit is that your trip will take longer. You do not get to dangerously cross multiple lanes because you missed your exit. Deal with it and exit or turn at the next available time. 2. Would you rather be correct or alive? Just because you're doing the correct thing doesn't mean that car isn't going to hit you. A 10-second delay from being cut off passes quickly. Trying to be right and not let them in could lead to an accident that takes weeks of time and thousands of dollars. Pick one. 3. Turn signals only indicate that the light is working. Use them as a reference but never 100% trust. If you're waiting to turn right and the oncoming car has a right turn signal and you enter the road and get T-boned, guess what? You're at fault. You're not them. It's happened. A lot. 4. Insurance isn't a magic fix and it's not free. I promise you that even if insurance pays everything and you're 0% at fault and uninjured, best case accident scenario, you'll still wish the accident never happened. Drive to avoid accidents. 5. As an ex-pizza delivery driver, speeding won't help in the short term. Going an extra 10 miles per hour for a 5-minute ride barely helps. Speeding only really adds up on long distance highway time. Learn to leave 5 minutes early. Second, the missing your exit is not a big deal. The amount of people that I see cut across multiple lanes of traffic on my daily commute is sickening. You take the time loss or risk taking someone's life. Especially since we live on a really busy suburban island where there's an exit on the parkways highways every half mile and everything connects. This is a much smaller one, but when exiting the vehicle always check your mirrors so you don't get your door taken off by another vehicle or hit a bicycle. You can also employ the Dutch lean where you open the door with the wrong hand. So use your left hand in a right hand drive vehicle and vice versa. It turns your body so you will see both the mirror and in any blind spots. Your license is a license to learn. You went through training, you took a test, now it's time to gain the most important thing of all, experience. Keep sand kitty litter in your car. Regardless of snow or mud, if you get stuck you can put it in front of your tires and get traction. Add a small shovel to this. You are now unstoppable. It's up to you to match the speed and flow of traffic when merging onto a highway. People should not have to slow down, speed up, or change lanes so that you can merge properly. Use the acceleration ramp lane to get up to speed. You should already be at highway speeds when merging. Always let tractor trailers do what they want. They are bigger than you. Always let motorcycles do what they want. They are smaller than you. Or mass always wins and bikes will stop faster than you can. Being timid can be almost as bad as too aggressive. A happy balance I've found is just being a confident driver. If you are going to go then go. If you are going stop then stop. But make a decision and stick with it. Know the rules of the road and don't expect others to follow them. Defensive driving is key. I've been almost hit multiple times over the years, but was able to get out of the way because I was aware that someone's car was moving in a this doesn't look good way. Don't look at your passenger when you speak to them. Keep your eyes on the road. Learned that one early after glancing at my passenger. When I looked back at the road and slammed on the brakes, I was too late. Rear-ended the one in front of me and watched my friend's head bounce off the windshield. Everybody was okay. Your engine doesn't make your car go. Your brakes don't make your car stop. Your steering wheel doesn't make the car turn. The engine, brakes, and steering wheel all affect your tires. Always keep in mind that if you overload friction, your car will start behaving very differently than you are accustomed to. 1. Always look left and right before you cross an intersection, even if there's a stoplight or it's a one-way. 2. Look behind your shoulder before changing lanes every time. 3. Get AAA. They help you during the worst moments. Put your phone down. Wear your seatbelt. Keep a flashlight and map in your car. Please save up and get yourself a dash camera if you don't have one. If someone else hits you and it is hard to prove you did nothing wrong, they will definitely pin it on the newly licensed driver. Also, if an accident does happen, don't admit fault. Even if you think you were wrong, don't do it because in the end it could have actually been the other person at fault. I was surprised to find this so far down, especially when pretty much any old phone you or parents' siblings have handy can be set up to serve this function. Shoulder checks. Even if you know there's no one behind you, do a shoulder check anyway. Do it every time and it'll become automatic for you. New drivers need to create good habits. Assume that everyone else driving is a total freaking idiot and will do the stupidest thing possible under all circumstances. Judge the driving style of the person in front of you as best as you can, then look at least 2 cars ahead. It'll save you a lot of close emergency brakes. Not just 2 cars in front of you, behind and beside you as well. Always be aware of your surroundings. If you're in single lane traffic at speed limit and somebody is riding your butt, pull over and let them pass. You can then go on about your drive without the stress anxiety of an aggressive driver around you. A crazy maniac in front of you is far less dangerous to you than a crazy maniac behind you. You are not as skilled as you think you are. Trying to show off is stupid. Being a skilled driver doesn't do you much good when a drunken semi-driver plows into you from behind and flips you on your roof. Skilled driving doesn't help when 3 tires lost traction on black ice. Lower speed curves have already been engineered with the expectation people will go too fast through them. So don't be the idiot rolling over trying to go 70 miles per hour through a 35 mile per hour turn. You are not that skilled. Never cut off a semi-truck. It takes them a lot longer to brake. If you cut them off, you're risking being flattened like a pancake. If you need to yield to one, and you end up stuck behind it, keep your distance from behind and go around them only when it is safe to do so. Also, signal for several seconds before merging in front of one to make your intentions clear, and give them a good amount of space. Don't use your phone. Don't even check the time on it while driving. Use the turn signals. Always be aware of your surrounding. Don't drink and drive. Not even a beer even if the law allows it. You may not feel the effects of one beer. However, a fraction of a second to your reaction time can be the difference between life and death. Be patient with others on the road. Try to adapt to the traffic as much as possible. The best advice I got is to drive like everyone else's goal was to kill you. Not stressing on it, but being super aware of everyone and everything around you definitely helps. Also use your mirrors. Don't look at your speedometer too much. It is better to pay a fine than die because you wasn't paying attention for 1-2 seconds, maybe killing someone else in the process. Of course, try not to go over the limit though. Driving is dangerous and not just for yourself. You may make a mistake and someone else will die because of it. Be responsible when driving. Your automobile is a lethal weapon. Please act accordingly. Pay attention at all time where it is pointed when you are in control of the vehicle. Basically think of your car as a gun. Maintain it and keep it under your control at all times, even when not in use. There will be times when you feel pressured by other drivers to go faster or turn quicker or generally drive different from how you intend. My advice is to learn how to ignore them and just do what you do. Once you get past the stress of other people, the act of driving, at least for me, is much more enjoyable. It's not you versus traffic. You are traffic. You're not special. Everyone has somewhere to be. People aren't in your way. Everyone trying to beat everyone else just makes traffic worse. Just go with traffic and you'll get there safe. Start by doing the right thing and making good habits. If you do lazy crap when you learn to drive, you'll end up being a bad driver. This is what my cousin told me when I was learning. There's almost always a solid white line on the right side of the road. If you live in a place where you drive on the left, I assume there's a similar line on the left. Keep that line in your peripheral vision. It should always be disappearing in the bottom right corner of your eye. If there's hard rain, if it's dark, if it's snowy or foggy, just stick with that line and it will guide you. I always think about that when I'm driving, especially if I'm lost or in poor visibility. And I think about it in life too. We all have someone or something that's there in the corner of our peripheral. You don't need to wonder if they'll be there. Your eyes just find them in the tough times and they'll get you through. Funnily enough, my cousin is a solid white line in my peripheral vision. Don't trust other people's turn signals. Let them start the turn before you pull out. I've had people keep going and I'm glad I don't trust them. Some people forget they're on. Watch out for stop signs. When I was a new driver, I missed them on several occasions because they were obscured a bit and I hadn't yet developed an instinct for where they'd be. I got lucky that nobody was there, but I could have T-boned someone easily. Really, more than anything, be aware of your own fallibility and don't be overconfident. When I was your age, so many of us thought we were gods of driving and everyone else was just a freaking idiot until we had a couple near misses that were 100% our fault and we learned we weren't special. Leave a lot more following distance than you are normally inclined to do. I learned this as a motorcycle rider, but have carried it over into driving a car as well. Having more space in front of you buys you time in an unexpected situation, allowing you to slow down, stop, or swerve instead of crashing. It can easily save your life, or save the life of others around you. Don't buy a new driver until you know how to use your old driver. New clubs won't make you play better. Buy tailor-made. Doesn't matter the location you buy it from. Driving can be scary, but remember that everyone around you doesn't want to be involved in a crash. Why would they? It is just such a hassle. This helped me because I used to think that everyone around me can crash into me at any time. I mean, they still are able to, but they don't want to. Assume everyone is out to kill you. Everyone is speeding to make the light. Everyone is texting on their phone. Everyone is drunk off their butt. Everyone is mad about something that happened at work and will gladly take it out on you. Every other moron on the road is in their own little world, cocooned in a false sense of security, completely incapable of caring about your well-being. They will be selfish. They will be reckless. They will pee you off, and you have to let it go. Cut you off? Let it go. Honking impatiently? Let it go. Flipping you off? Let it go. There is nothing you can do. You will never get revenge, never teach them a lesson, and never know which one has a shotgun in the trunk. I'm making it sound scary in the same way a good gun safety trainer makes it sound scary. Thousands die every year, and a lot of them were driving safely. You forgot they do this all at the same time. As others have noted, don't text and drive. People have been driving for over 120 years and did just fine without calling or texting anyone. I know someone who ended up permanently brain damaged and will never be able to work again because a texting driver ran into him. If you can't stay safe for your own sake, do it so you don't have something like that on your conscience. Everyone wants to believe that they're the one person in the entire human race who can safely text and drive. But unless they never leave their driveway, they are kidding themselves. Half the people on the road are idiots. Since you can't tell which is which, pretend they're all idiots and you'll never be surprised. Break the speed limit if you want to, just be aware that you're doing it. Don't ever glance down at the speedometer and be surprised you're going 15 over. professional delivery driver for 5 years, then a trainer for 2 years here. Never assume that just because you have the right of way, you won't get hit. When the light turns green for you, you should still look left, right, left in case someone else is being an idiot. Also, it's more important to be safe than to be in the right. The biggest piece of advice I have is to just let it go. I know so many people that let bad drivers get to them and ruin their day with road rage. I used to be one, but newsflash, there are always gonna be bad drivers. Leave early, don't be in a rush, and your life will be happier for it. Never cut off truck drivers. If you need to merge in front of them, wait until you at least see both headlights in your rearview mirror, or side mirror if you can't wait that long. Also, when they need to merge, let them merge. It's hard enough to drive a truck as it is. Get the frick out of the left lane unless you're passing. And when you're passing, don't be a P and take 2 minutes to do it either. Don't drive drunk. Even if you think your parents or whoever you call for a ride will be mad. Honestly, they would rather have you alive than dead. And put down your phone. Don't drive beside a tractor trailer. If you want to pass, make sure you have enough room to completely pass the truck and speed up to pass. Be attentive, not only to the road but other drivers and shoulders sidewalks as well. It's scary and frustrating how many accidents I or someone I know have been in that could have been avoided by attentive, responsive driving. Your car does not start until everyone is buckled in. Everything that is not restrained in the event of a crash becomes a projectile. This includes people. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.